All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me this Thursday afternoon. For some reason, it's like a super glare on there. I don't know why. Try and clean that up a little bit, but we'll go ahead and get started here. I think YouTube's done some updates or something, and it's acting a little bit funny. So sorry about that. Sorry about the glare on there. I know it doesn't look the greatest anymore, but let's go ahead and get started here. So we'll start with Vlad. Um, so Vlad K says, my practice swing is always different than my actual swing, which is short rotation, causing quick forward, downward acceleration, shifting my spine, causing a slice and a skull. So this is pretty common. A lot of times our practice swing is going to look a lot different than our actual swing. And the reason is that when we're taking a practice swing, all we're focused on is the movement that our body is making. There's no object, ball to hit or anything like that. Many times, if you look at your practice swing, your club's, if you look at it on camera, your club is not coming through in the same place where it was. The face often is, not square and things like that. So if you were to actually hit a golf ball, a lot of times it would be a terrible kind of shot. So what happens when you add the golf ball there is that intuitively you don't want to hit a bad shot. So you make these compensations in your swing that may not be the best technique to allow you to hit a good shot. So a lot of people, a lot of amateurs, in order to square the club face, they flip the club through. But in their practice swing, they see that they have this forward shaft lean. But what you often see in those practice swings is that club face is wide open. So when you add the golf ball, you flip the club to square up the face because intuitively you don't want to hit a shot that's way out to the right. So what I'd recommend doing is, take a look at these things when you're taking your practice swing and, try to look on slow-mo camera and see if that club is coming down and the club face is square and you're in these right positions. Try to make it look like exactly the way you want to make it look like, as if there was a golf ball there. And then try to add a golf ball at that point and see if you can still get in those same kind of motions. Now, a lot of times, if you exaggerate these motions in your practice swing, for instance, you try to get as much forward shaft lean as you possibly can, and you try to, if that's in fact what you're working on, and you're trying to get that club face square while getting as much forward shaft lean as you possibly can, that makes it a lot easier to happen when the golf ball is there. So let's say you still struggle with the golf ball there. There's some things that you can do to help you translate, to kind of transition to the golf ball. So one thing you can do is you can hit a tee instead. So unlike a golf ball, with a golf ball, we want to hit it straight with a square club face. We want to hit it hard. We want to hit it with a club path that's perfect. We want to hit the ball before the ground. There's all these things that are going on, and it takes away from the focus that's on the movement of our bodies. So, like I said, a lot of times intuitively we'll do things that help us hit the ball straighter. So one thing that you can do to kind of transition from that good motion without the golf ball is to hit a tee, clip a tee. When you clip a tee, it doesn't matter what happens to it. You can't hit it very far. It doesn't matter if you hit it straight. These things don't matter. So intuitively, a little bit more, it'll help you to transition. Just hitting at something, it'll help you transition to the golf ball. So you can use a leaf, a piece of paper. These are all things that you can use to help you transition to the golf ball. So hopefully that helps. If you're having trouble translating your practice swing to your swing with the golf ball, try to make it in an exaggerated form in your practice swing, and then go, you can transition to there by using a leaf, a tee, a piece of paper. Again, try to get it in an exaggerated form. Try to make it exactly the way that you want to. Square club face, club path coming down nice and good. Whatever you're hitting, you hit that first. Get that tee first contact, no ground contact beforehand. And then from there, then add the golf ball and see if you can get it with the golf ball. So hopefully that helps. So we'll go on to the next question here. Ron K says, does the Flight Scope, which sells for $500, provide enough accurate information as compared to the Flight Scope or TrackMan, which sells for close to $20,000? So I believe he's talking about the Flight Scope Mevo. So the Flight Scope Mevo is going to give you your club head speed. It's going to give you your ball speed. So because of those two things, it'll give you your smash factor, which is just your ball speed divided by your club head speed. It's going to give you your launch angle, and it can give you some spin numbers. The caveat with the spin numbers is I believe you have to have a little sticker that you put on the golf ball every single time in order to get accurate spin numbers. So really it just kind of gives you your club head speed, your ball speed, your launch angle, which is a good thing to have, and some spin numbers if if you use the stickers, and it'll give you an estimated distance based on those things. It's not going to be as accurate as the $20,000 machines because it doesn't have as many parameters to base their estimated distance on. So it's kind of like you get what you pay for the most part. You're paying $500. You're going to get a smaller amount of numbers. You're going to get a less accurate representation. It's going to be pretty close, most of the time, I think, but it's going to give you a smaller representation. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as a consumer product is concerned, unless you are a tour player or an instructor, having a flight scope or a TrackMan, I don't know that it's really that much help. If you really for amateur players, the best things to know are your club face angle and your club path, along with your club head speed and your face strike location. And there just isn't a device out there. If there was a device out there that told you all those things, then that would be the device I would say all amateurs should have that, because that's really what's going to help you. Those are, that's what we call the big four in some of the big four. One of them is your ground contact, which will be, you don't need a flight scope to tell you that you're chunking the ball, right? So, but really, these devices, they're great to have, but you don't need them. If you know some ball flight laws, then it's really easy to understand what's going on with your ball flight and what you need to do to change it. And this is something that we talk about in our ball striking masterclass. We'll be actually offering enrollment probably mid to late September. So if you're interested in that, but what we talk about in there is what we call the big four. So the big four is going to be one, where you strike the ball in the club face. Two is going to be your ground contact, which is where you're striking the ground in relationship to the ball. We're going to talk about your face angle, which is the direction the club face is pointing at impact. And then we're also going to talk about your club path and how to look at your ball flight and understand what's going on with those big four things. If those four things are good, meaning you hit the ball in the center of the club face, you hit the ball with a square club face, you hit the ball, you swing on plane, you have a good neutral club path, and you hit the ball before the ground. If those four things are good, you're going to hit a good golf shot. So that class, that ball striking masterclass, is all drills to help you be able to understand what's going on with your ball flight and that impact to help you control those things. So you don't need a TrackMan or a flight scope if you understand these things. You can save yourself, $20,000 very, very easily. Now, these things are nice to have. They're nice to have. It's nice to be able to look down and see a number and see that was this much into out, or this, that shot had this much spin on it, or it's nice to see those hard numbers. But honestly, if you just look at your understand some cues from your ball flight, those you can easily adjust those things and save yourself a lot of money. The one thing that you can't really know exactly what it is without seeing a number, and one thing that I would really highly recommend that you get is something to measure your club head speed. And there's lots of devices out there. They are very inexpensive especially compared to TrackMan, the $20,000 machines. But even compared to the Mevo, you don't need a $500 Mevo to measure your club head speed. The Mevo will do just fine doing that, but there's also devices like the Swing Speed Radar, the Swing Caddy 2, which is about $290 that you can get that measure your club head speed and also give you your ball speed and an estimated distance, just like the Mevo would. So those are the devices that I would recommend. Every amateur should have a device that measures their club head speed, especially if they're wanting to work on distance, because that is the key proponent to gaining distance. And that's what we work on in the 20-minute distance fix course. So that's what I'd recommend. I know a lot of people that ask about these these radars, and it sounds like a really great idea to have one and things like that. And I agree, it's really cool to see all the numbers and everything. But honestly, it's not 100% necessary to have one. All right, so let's go on to the next question here. So James Q asks, "Hey Q, when laying off, do you reach the sky first, as Clay says, and then lay off, or can you lay off as you reach the sky?" So I think James is talking about shallowing the club, like we talked about in the move course. So you would want to lay off after you reach the sky. So let me show you what happens visually if you were to lay off the club and then kind of go up the sky. So what would happen is you kind of bring this club way inside so it's really laid off, and then you would go up. So now my momentum's going this way. I need this club to shallow out in the downswing. That's when it needs to happen. So you need to go up and then shallow out. Or, that's pretty extreme, going way up here. This is a pretty high swing. This is best for distance typically because you're creating more space and time to accelerate the club. But, you do what works the best for you. You got to find the happy medium, which works the best for you. There's nothing wrong with having kind of a flatter swing and already being kind of in this shallow position. The problem with it, the downside of it, you call it, a con basically, is that it's a little bit harder to create speed from there because you just don't have as much space and time to accelerate the club. So getting those hands a little bit higher is going to make it a little bit easier to generate some speed, but it makes it a little bit harder to shallow out the club. Bringing that club already back nice and shallow makes it easier to shallow out the club because it's already in a shallow position. Now, don't get me wrong. You can swing flat and then still come down steep. But it's in a position that makes it easier to kind of keep it right there because you don't have to do any more of this. It's already kind of there, and then you can just bring it down. So that would be, considered what you would call kind of like a one-plane swing, like a Mo Norman-esque type of swing. Excuse me. Like I said, the problem with that is it's just a little bit harder to generate speed from there. All right. So, James. I'm not sure if your name is Jamie's or James. Might have misspelled his name on there, but James M says, "Hi, Cube. My difficulty is swinging too quickly after the backswing. It's like I want to kill the ball, and the result is that it might go anywhere, on or off the course. I have tried the Matsuyama pause at the top of the swing with moderate success. If I remember to do it, any other suggestions?" So my biggest suggestion would be just to make sure that you complete your backswing. Without seeing your swing. Now, if I could see your swing, I maybe have a little better idea of how I could help you the most. But in general, when I see people with quick downswings, they just come down so quick, like they want to kill the ball in the downswing, it's because they don't get a complete backswing. They stop short, or it's mostly just kind of arms. There's not much shoulder turn. And then from here, because they feel like the only way they're going to be able to get any power is if they get to that ball as quickly as possible, and then they really rush that downswing and get quick. So what I'd recommend doing is making sure that you get a nice full shoulder turn, get that way to your lead side, and then let everything start coming down into that nice full finish position. So what that's going to be working on, you could be working on the power turn course, which is one of the pieces of the Top Speed Golf system. You could also go to the 20-minute distance fix and start working through some of those drills to help you start getting a much bigger range of motion. The catapult drill in week 1, that's a very good one to help you get everything turning away from the target as much as possible so that you have all this space and time. If you're way up here getting this big shoulder turn, you don't have to feel, you're going to feel like you have all the time in the world to get down to the golf ball, and you don't have to rush anything. So that's what I'd recommend. To get to the courses, if you just click the house icon, you can scroll down and see all the courses right there. If you go to the course, Top Speed Golf courses progress, I believe is what it says, you'll see you see the power turn course. That would be a very good one for you to work on. And also the 20-minute distance fix course, which is just all about gaining club head speed. So that's what I'd recommend for you. The 20-minute distance fix course, I believe, is right below the opening drive. You can also get to it from the instruction tab at the top of the screen. If you just hover your cursor over the instruction tab, it'll expand a menu, and then it should be the first one right there. Just click on that 20-minute distance fix, and you can get started on that. All right. So Gary G says, when I flatten the club at the beginning of the move, should I get the right elbow close to my right hip? So that could be a good feeling. The elbow is definitely can be helpful in getting you to shallow out the club. Everything you do with your technique, it should be to kind of help what you're trying to do at impact. So if you're seeing this feeling of getting this elbow kind of down toward the right hip is helping you, because you can see automatically, if I have this club steep and I bring my elbow down like that, look what happens to the club. It shallows out, right? So that could definitely be a good feeling for you. It just depends on your swing. For some people, it might get the club to where it's shallowing out too much, and now in the downswing, they're going to have to do kind of one of these moves. But maybe that's not the case for you. Maybe you're already kind of coming down in a steep fashion, and doing this is just going to help you get that club in that right position for you. So I would just look at your swing on camera and see if you're shallowing out that club properly. And if that feeling of getting that right elbow to be more inward toward your body in the downswing is helping you to shallow it out, then absolutely, that's a great feeling to have. The elbow definitely plays a pretty big role there. All right, so Paul H. Started typing something, but just put a period in there, so no worries. So yeah, get on there and post your question, Paul. Wayne V says, please discuss letting hands drop in shallow club at the top of the golf swing. So basically what you're doing is you need to feel like the club and everything is more behind you in the downswing. If you're bringing this club up really, really vertical, then you need to feel like the hands are kind of going and dropping kind of more behind you, and you're swinging more into out. Because a lot of people, when they're coming down steep, the hands and everything are kind of going out away from the body. One thing that's also going to help you with this is making sure that you're in a good spine angle position. If you're coming up to the top of the swing and you are leaning toward the target, or you're vertical with your spine, what typically is going to happen is your first move down, you're going to kind of want to go like this. Or if you are standing up in the backswing, kind of the same thing. You're kind of standing up, your shoulders are getting level at the top of the swing. That first move is going to want to be like that. So feel like you're kind of bringing this lead shoulder kind of down, and that way it makes it way easier to swing that club from the inside. So give that a try, Wayne, and hopefully that'll help you get the club shallowing out a little bit better. So Doug C says, when making a swing, what feeling do you look for? Doug, could you give me a little bit more? I'm not sure. When making a swing, what feeling do you look for? Personally, for me, I have a tendency, whoever asked the question about, the Matsuyama getting quick in the downswing, I have a little bit of a tendency to get a little bit quick in the downswing as well. So usually one of my feelings, if I feel that going on, the swing feeling that I'm looking for is making sure I complete my backswing and then I get a good full finish. So that's one of the swing feelings for me. But typically, if I'm swinging well and I'm completing my backswing, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just thinking about impact. I'm thinking about having the proper impact. So whatever feeling allows me to get that club face. For instance, if I'm trying to hit a draw, I might have the feeling that I'm trying to hit a little bit of the outside of the golf ball, and I'm visualizing that ball start to the right and curve to the left and be right on target. Those are the kind of feelings that I'm having. So if you're having some technical issues, it might be one swing thought that hopefully helps you to get in there, two at most, as long as it's backswing and downswing, as long as they're separate. And then ideally, you'd just be thinking about impact. Like everything's good with your swing, and you'd just be thinking about your impact and how you're going to get that ball to do what it needs to do. But Doug, I'm not sure if that's exactly what the answer you're kind of looking for. So if you would, be a little bit more specific with your question, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. So Mauricio R says, watching Clay swing, it seems that he starts straightening his left leg in the downswing when the club is just passes parallel level to the ground. When is the best moment in the downswing to straighten the left leg in order to avoid a chunk? So in order to avoid a chunk, you want to make sure that you're just getting to your lead side. So if you're having trouble chunking the ball, making sure that you go to that stop chunking and topping course and work through the drills there. In one of those drills, it's one of my favorite drills. It's called the step drill, where you start out with your feet together and you step forward. It's forcing you to get your momentum moving forward. I'd recommend working on that drill in there. To get to the stop chunking and topping courses, go to that, click the house icon and scroll down, stop chunking and topping, click that course and get started on there. So that's if you're struggling with the chunk. Because you can straighten out this lead leg in the perfect timing all day, but if you are hanging back and not getting your weight to your lead side, you're still going to chunk the ball most likely. So you got to make sure that you're getting to your lead side even better. So as far as when that lead leg starts to straighten out, it's really a good feeling to have it about halfway down in the downswing. So that's similar probably to the feeling or what you're seeing with Clay. So we're getting down here. We're getting about halfway down. And then from here, I'm starting to kind of straighten this out as I'm coming through. So it's really happening slowly from here to here. But once my hands kind of get right here, and that's where you're talking about, that club parallel to the ground, that's when it really starts to straighten out. And then typically you're still going to have a little bit of bend in that lead leg here at impact. And then it really doesn't completely really straighten out until that straight line release position. And what we're doing here is we're really pushing into the ground to really help whip this club up. Because usually your hands are reaching about their lowest point, about right here. So the leg is starting to straighten out and they're reaching the lowest point about right here. And then what we're doing is we're pushing into the ground. That's pulling this handle up. So my hands actually start moving up to this point, and that's helping me as this club is moving down and my hands are moving up. That's helping me to really whip this club through there and be able to get some good speed. So there's some great videos on that in the compression line section. Again, to get to these courses, click that house icon, go to that Top Speed Golf System course progress, and you can find that compression line section. One of the videos in there is, can't remember if the release the club with the legs is in that one or if it's in the straight line release. I can't remember right, but there's a great drill where Clay talks about how the legs are helping to release that club. If you just search the words leg or legs release, 2 words, legs release, you'll be able to find that video. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a search window that works really, really well. You can find tons of videos. If you're ever looking for a video on a specific subject, all you have to do is search for something. We most likely have a video on whatever it is you're looking for. There's something like probably 500-600 videos on the website. It's crazy how many videos there are. And we've covered a lot of stuff. So if you're ever looking for something, you're wondering, go ahead and post that or search that on there and you'll be able to find it. But if you're looking for that legs release video, just search legs release, 2 words. You'll be able to find that video and work on that drill. So Mike S says, I have a SkyTrack and am so inconsistent with backspin. I can go from 1,200 to 11,000. What am I doing wrong? So, well, I'm not really, you have to give me a little bit more details here. So your 1,200 backspin, that'd be very low with really about any club. 11,000 backspin would be very high. You usually only see that with a wedge shot. So I don't know if you're getting that range from 1,200 to 11,000 because you're using different clubs, because different clubs are going to give you different spin ranges, right? So typically, a tour player on average is going to be having spin with their driver somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,600 RPMs. They can go down as low as 1,800. Usually don't see 1,200. I would call that, if you're seeing 1,200, it's probably a misreading, as I would imagine. It's tough to only get, unless there's just not a lot of speed there, it's tough to only get 1,200 RPMs. Now, 11,000 RPMs, if you're getting into 5 figures with RPMs, that's a ton of spin. You're usually only going to see that with wedge shots, because what creates spin is your loft, basically, and your speed. That's what creates the most amount of spin. So the higher loft you have, the more spin you're going to have. The more speed you have, the more spin you're going to have. So keep that in mind when you're working on things. And like I said, these devices, you have a SkyTrak. I've had a little bit of experience with a SkyTrak. Honestly, I felt it was pretty inaccurate, but so some of those readings that you're getting, it can be completely misreading. So let me know what club are you getting 11,000 spin with. Let me know what club you're getting 1,200 spin with. If you're getting 1,200 spin with any club, it's most likely a misreading, unless you just have a really low club head speed and you're not playing enough loft with your driver. That'd be about the only way that would be accurate. If you're getting 11,000 spin, you are really spinning your wedges, which is something you can do on a mat, because most likely if you're hitting your SkyTrak, you're probably hitting it off of a mat. When you hit it, you're going to have higher spinning shots usually when you're hitting off of a mat, because there's less debris getting on the face. So because usually the mats are dry, right? So there's no moisture getting in the face, no much moisture getting in the grooves, and usually they're not. You're not getting a lot of dirt and grass on the club face when hitting on the mat. There might be a little bit of dust that gets on there, but that's not going to affect the spin as much as a lot of moisture or grass or dirt or things like that. So you're going to get a little bit more spin. So I wouldn't say it's completely out of the ordinary to get 11,000 RPMs of spin, but you would have to be hitting probably a 60-degree wedge and really getting it low on the face, getting a lot of spin with it to be able to do that in order for that to be accurate. But again, all these devices, even the $20,000 devices, they have misreads sometimes. So if you get a funky number that's kind of way out there, way out of left field, it's most likely it messed up. It didn't quite have the right, it basically just kind of messed up the number. It had a little bit of a misreading, most likely. All right. So Mauricio R says, when the ball lies higher than my feet, I tend to hit horribly in the point of the toe. I usually take a lower club and grab it shorter to avoid chunking and try to swing as usual. Any suggestions? You got it. That is exactly what you should do. If you're hitting it out on the toe, I would actually maybe intentionally try to hit it off the heel. Line up as you normally do, and then intentionally line off the heel. But you're taking the proper precautions to hitting the ball off when the ball's above your feet. Just choke up on the club a little bit. Take an extra club, choke up, give yourself a little bit more control. Also helps you change the lie angle a little bit of the club. If it's very, very much above your feet, you may need to take even more. You may need to choke up even more and take even more club depending on the severity. So maybe that's what's going on. Maybe you're just not taking, enough club and choking down enough. And maybe the slope is, like this. It's very much, and you're still kind of like this with the club. So I would just try to get the lie angle to kind of match the slope as much as you can. And that comes from choking up on the club. So that's what I'd recommend, trying to get it to match the slope as much as you can. And that will help you to get that. Because if you're like, let's say the slope is severe like this, and you have the club like this, the only way for you to really get down to the golf ball is to hit it off the toe, right? So you got to get that to match the lie angle there. So Hans E says, new member here. Can you go into a little more details on stable fluid spine and what you see the knees doing? The drill is more of a slide and not a turn, right? Can you tell me what exactly drill that you're referring to? As far as the knees, your knees are, you're only really focusing on what your spine is doing. I would just do whatever your knees are doing currently. You're just trying to get your stable. If you're in the level 1 of the stable fluid spine, all you're trying to do is get in an angled away position at address. So it sounds like you're maybe getting ahead a little bit. So if you're a new member, you're probably still in level 1. I'd be trying to get your spine angle in a little bit more angled away position. You're going to have your knees a little bit flex in your knees at address. So you don't want to have completely straight legs at address. The reason is it's not a very athletic position. So get a little bit of flex. I always think about it in a sense is, I don't know if you play baseball or soccer or whatever it might be. you want to be in an athletic position. So it's almost like you want to feel like if somebody was running right at you and was getting ready to run you over, you wouldn't just stand there with your feet, with your legs just completely like that. You would get in a more athletic stance to be able to react, right? The same thing you want to do in the golf swing. You want to get some be in a more athletic position so that you can move more easily. So that's basically what you'd want to do with your knees in there. There's nothing specific as far as it pertains to the stable fluid spine. You're not sliding, you're turning. Your spine remains stable as you're turning to the top of the swing, and then you get a little bit more angled away in the downswing. There's a little bit of lateral shift to your lead side as you start the downswing, but as soon as you're starting to feel that pressure in your lead leg, you're starting to push and rotate that body open, and that's what allows you to get more angled away as you're coming into contact. Paul Z says, please suggest keys to promote forward shaftling at impact. How to tell if I'm doing it right. So, well, one, the way to tell if you're doing things right, you got to use video. People ask me all the time, what's the best training aid out there? And most people have it. It's already sitting in their pocket. So use your phone. Most people have smartphones these days. Use an app like V1 Golf and video your swing. Using the app, and that's how you see feedback to know if you're doing it correctly. Now, as far as drills to get forward shaftling, the biggest reason why people don't have forward shaftling, and I don't know specifically for you, Paul, there could be other reasons that are going on, but this is the reason that most people aren't able to get forward shaftling. It's basically two things. So, and it's what's covered in the move course. So if you're not getting forward shaftling, I would go to our the move course and start working through the drills there. So basically what happens is with most amateur golfers is they have some sort of steepness to the downswing. So in the downswing, this club is coming down steep. And what I mean by that is if you look at this butt end of the club, it's going to be pointing inside of the golf ball. If we drew a line straight from the ground to the butt end of the club down to the ground, it'd be pointing inside of the golf ball. So that would be considered a steep position. And what happens is that in order to get this club to come back down on plane, we have to stand up. And when you stand up, you flip the club. So that's one of the reasons. And that also comes down to flipping the club by the trail hand kind of straightening out quite a bit as you're coming into impact. What you see with most people who don't have forward shaftling, this trail hand is at impact is in a pretty flat position. There's not a lot of cupping to it. If you look at a tour player, they're coming into impact, and this trail wrist is in this bent back position. You look at amateurs, that wrist is in this kind of position. No forward shaftling, the wrist is in a pretty flat position. So when you will flip the club, that's going to be in this kind of position right here. So maybe you're shallowing out the club, but you still flip it. So that would mean that you need to change the way that you square up the face, which would be, so if I keep these wrist angles and I have no forward shaftling, so this would be a square club face right here. If I keep these wrist angles the exact same, so trail wrist flat, lead wrist in a broken down position here, if I do that and I push the face forward, if I push my hands forward, look what happens to that club face. Now it's wide open. So in order to square that club face, I have to turn that handle down just like that. So now you can see I have forward shaft lean and I have a square club face. If I bring this back down to the ground, look at what my hands look like. I have a bent back lead hand and I have a I have a bent back trail hand and a lead hand that is lead wrist that's more in a bowed. It could be flat. It could even appear to be a little bit cupped depending on the strength of your grip. But you have to learn how to hit the ball with this kind of squared up face position. And that's going to be going through the move course. So to get to the move course, click the house icon at the top of the screen there. This looks like a little house. That's going to bring you to the top. That's going to bring you to the home page. And if you scroll down, I believe it's about halfway down in the Top Speed Golf courses, click on the move and start working through those drills there, and they'll help you get some forward shaftling. All right, so let me get a drink here. So John L says, I usually play or practice after work. I wear my normal sunglasses, but they are dark, polarized, and I struggle to see. What color sunglasses lenses do you suggest for late afternoon or early evening play? So I don't know. I just use they do make sunglasses out there. No, Oakley makes sunglasses that are specific lenses for golf to help the golf ball kind of pop out a little bit. I have some Under Armour sunglasses that I like. I don't know if they're specific for golf or not, but it helps me see the ball a little bit better. I know Adidas also has a line of sunglasses that are specific to golf, help the golf ball pop out a little bit. So I'd be checking those out. I'm not really an expert on this, but any sunglasses they're telling you that it kind of helps that white jump out at you. May make it a little bit easier to see. And also having the rimless ones. So these have a rim on the bottom. These are just my glasses. I don't have my sunglasses in here. I think they're in my truck. But my sunglasses, they're actually open on the bottom. So there's no lens there or there's no rim there. So it's basically that rim won't get in the way of you seeing the golf ball. So that's the other suggestion I have. I would have make sure that you got rimless sunglasses. Makes it a little bit easier. Doesn't mean you can't play golf with rims on your glasses, but it makes it a little bit easier because then you're not trying to look at the ball through a rim. All right. So Mike S says, as to my earlier question on spin, I'm hitting it 8 irons from 3,000 to 10,000 with a loss of 20 to 30 yards. So if you're getting 10,000, I don't know, those seem like a lot, those high numbers, that'd be a high number to get. So one thing to keep in mind is that the lower you hit the ball in the face, the more spin you're going to have. And the more loft you present to the golf ball, the more spin you're going to have. So it could be that you're flipping through impact, you're adding loft to the face. Typically, the easiest way to kind of think about it is, every iron. So basically, if you're hitting an 8 iron, a good spin numbers would be probably around 75 to 8,000 spin. With a 6 iron, about 55 to 6,000 spin. It's kind of the easiest way to think about it, is that every iron you should be around that many thousands of spin. So if you're hitting a 9 iron, maybe 9,000 spin, that's pretty high. But I think you understand what I'm saying there. So with an 8 iron, I'm guessing somewhere in between, not guessing, but 7,000 and 8,000 spin would be a pretty good spin number. If you're getting really higher than that, then you are most likely adding loft to the face, which would be flipping the club, through impact. We just talked about the move and how that would be a good thing to work on to help you to de-loft the face. And then also you may be hitting the ball thin, which is strikes lower on the face, which adds spin due to gearing. So let me talk about that for a minute. Why does gear effect add spin? Well, what's going on here? The easiest way to think about this is to think wherever you hit this ball on the face, it's always going to want to kind of crawl toward the middle of the face. So if this is my dead middle of the face right here, I don't have a Sharpie anywhere where I can mark that, but if this is my dead middle of the face right here, and I hit the golf ball low on the face, it's going to crawl up the face a little bit, and that's going to add spin. So look at your strike location. See where you're striking the ball on the face. Take a little Sharpie marker and put a little dot on the golf ball, like a little heavy dot, and then set up that dot to where it'll rub off on the face when you hit it and see where you're striking it. You can also use foot powder spray. Impact tape, I wouldn't recommend using impact tape. It works fine to tell you where your strike location is, but it will affect those spin numbers. So keep that in mind. It'll have a bigger effect on those spin numbers. The foot powder spray and the dot on the ball doesn't really affect the spin numbers as much, for sure. So if you're getting really low spin numbers, like 8,000 spin, that's probably, I would imagine those probably chunked shots. You're probably hitting behind the golf ball. Maybe you're getting it really, really high. You may be hitting it, if you're hitting off of a mat, a lot of times what happens, if you chunk the ball, the strike will be really high on the face because the club will just kind of go into the mat, and then your strike will be higher on the face. And the same thing goes. If you get a higher strike on the face, that ball kind of crawls down the face a little bit. That's what you want to visualize. That's not technically what's going on, but it lowers the amount of backspin, and that could be what's going on as well. It could also just be misreadings. My experience with this SkyTrack is that the readings aren't correct. So and that would make sense with the 20 to 30 yards loss of distance. If you're hitting behind the golf ball, that could be what's going on as well. Thing you got to do is look at your swing on camera, see what's going on camera, and see if you're chunking the ball, see if you're flipping the club. That's really the best training aid there is out there. So that's what I'd recommend doing. And if you're struggling with forward shaft lean, really flipping the club through impact, I would take a look at, the move course and work through there. And again, if you want any help with any of this, we do have Unlimited Swing Review program. Robin and myself offer this program. It's very easy to use. You just download the app, you film your swing, you send us your swing. We do a voiceover lesson to help you, play your best golf. And then we just keep on going back and forth. And it's unlimited for the entire month. So you sign up, you send me videos on Monday, you'll get a review back within 48 business hours. We always try to do it on the next business day. But if you send it in the evening one night, you might not get it until 2 business days. But it's 48 business hours is when you'll get the reviews back. Then, you can take it that day and go and work on it some more, send another video, and we'll evaluate it, and we'll keep on moving forward from there. But that's basically how it works. It's a great program that we offer if you're really looking to improve and you want help with your swing. A lot of this stuff is overwhelming. It's hard to know exactly what's going on. So, I highly recommend the program. It's been beneficial for a lot of people on the website for sure. All right. So Hansi says, in athletic position, right knee moves toward ball a little, left knee moves out a little, using level 1 test for a golf setup. Yeah, so that's right. When you, if you're looking at, in the backswing, when you are turning, that knee, when you're turning your hips, that knee is going to move in a little bit. And then the downswing, this knee is going to move in a little bit. So it sounds like, the right things are happening, Hans. It's hard for me to know without seeing your swing, but it sounds like you're on the right track for sure. So Charles V says, on downswing, do you pull with the left arm, push with the right hand, or both? So it depends on what point in the downswing. So when you're up here, it's going to be there's going to be a pulling motion. There's also going to be, now you don't want to push like this, but it is going to be a pushing, like you're pushing the club out like this with the right hand. It's almost like if you were, this might be the reason why you see a lot of pitchers that are really good golfers. Smoltz and Mulder, they're winning all these pro-am tournaments all the time. But basically, or quarterbacks, Romo's out there, winning these tournaments as well. But basically, if you're used to throwing something, back here, you have this cocked back and then you release it like that. Same thing's going on in the golf swing, except it's kind of in this motion. So you're pushing with your right hand, right? But you're not doing this. You're pushing that with your right arm and everything. So that's the same feeling in the downswing as you're coming down and you're throwing that like a ball. You're releasing that out in front. And you're doing the same thing with your lead arm and your lead shoulder. You're pulling everything through, especially through contact. You're really pulling this handle up and out through contact. So the answer is both. It's just at what point in the swing. You don't want to have this pushing feeling with the trail, with the right hand, your trail hand through impact, because technically that trail hand can't keep up. This part of the club is moving the fastest where your lead hand is. So if you have your right hand on here and it's pushing through, you're actually slowing it down. Now that seems counterintuitive, but it can't keep up. So it actually kind of slows the club down a little bit. And a lot of times it causes you to cast the club, add loft to the face, and you don't transfer as much energy to the golf ball because you're hitting it with more loft. So that's kind of the feeling that you want to have. There's a great video on the website if you want to learn about kind of the pressure that you're putting into the club throughout the swing. It's in the crazy detail section of the vault. So if you go to the instruction tab, go to vault categories, then go to the crazy detail category. Once you're in there, there's a video on how much pressure to put into the club in crazy detail, I think it's called. Clay talks about kind of all these things that I'm talking about where you're having pressure into the club at certain points in the swing. So check that out. It's pretty interesting. It might open your eyes to some things that you weren't aware of before. All right, so Mauricio R says, starting the downswing, is it correct after starting rotation, after starting to rotate, simultaneously pull down the right elbow towards the waist and accelerating down the left elbow? So let me read that again, Mauricio. Yes, starting the downswing, is it correct after starting to rotate, simultaneously pull down the right elbow towards the waist and accelerate down the left elbow? So I believe, basically you're talking about proper sequencing in the swing. So the easiest way to think about it is that it's all from the ground up. So what you're thinking of here is you're getting to your lead side. So you're getting that weight shift to your lead side. That's starting the rotation of the hips. And then that's starting the rotation of the torso. And then that's starting the rotation of the shoulders. And that's the shoulders are bringing the arms down. And then the arms are bringing the hands down. And then the hands are bringing the club into the golf ball. Now, all these things happen, or in the most efficient swings, those things happen in that sequence. So in simple terms, that's really just the easiest way to think about it. Now, those things are happening split seconds apart. And it's really, if you just think about it's all starting from the ground up, it makes things a lot easier rather than trying to think I'm getting to here, then I'm thinking my elbow, then I'm thinking this. It's happening. These things are happening split seconds apart. You're not going to be able to think, oh, I shifted my weight. Now my elbow is turning in here and my left arm's going in there. We don't have enough time to think like that. These things are happening split seconds apart. We're talking, it's probably 0.1 to 0.2 seconds is when all of that is kind of happening. The whole swing itself is only about 1.5 seconds. And most of that is the backswing. The downswing happens in about 0.5 seconds. So the start of the downswing from there to there to there, we're talking 0.1 to 0.2 seconds probably. You don't have enough time to think that's all that happens. So you just need to think first what needs to happen first, and then everything else happens in that sequence that I just mentioned. All right, so Charlie G says, I'm working on the move downswing and tend to over-rotate my forearm and wrist, which leads to major league pulls. Any suggestions to help club face awareness? So usually when people are working on the move and they're pulling the ball, it means that they're still flipping the club. That means, so if you watch here, I talked about earlier about how, a lot of people who you don't have forward shaft lean, they come into impact with this straight lead wrist position. Let me angle this down a little bit. So just to kind of go over that again, they come into impact, straight lead wrist position, broken down lead wrist position, straight trail wrist position. We have a square club face and no forward shaft lean. If I push that forward, keep the same wrist angles, now my face is wide open. So in order to get forward shaft lean and square the club face, I turn that handle down. So if I were to just be in this position right here, broken down lead wrist, flat trail wrist, and I turn this handle down, now my face is closed. So I imagine that's what's going on. You're still coming into impact, and this trail hand's still pushing things through, but you're turning this handle down so the face is shut. So what you need to do is you need to get more forward shaft lean, and that would come from making sure that you're shallowing out the club. Check that on camera. You got to check these things on camera. You can't just base it on feel. You have to see what's going on camera. I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, Charlie, but this is something I see all the time. I get students come to me all the time. They say, I'm working on doing this. And then I say, oh, did you look on camera? What's going on? But, oh, no. Like, well, how do you know? You don't have any idea. You have to look on camera. That's one of the best training aids in the world is that camera. So you gotta check and see what's going on camera. So make sure that you're shallowing out the club, and then make sure that you're coming into impact, and you're not coming into impact with this trail hand really flipping through the club, because you may be getting this lead hand doing this turn down motion, which is helping to close the face, but you may still be coming into impact with this trail hand coming in and really pushing things through. And a lot of times that comes from coming down steep in the downswing. So make sure you're shallowing out the club. If you're still pushing that through, then you need to work on this position even more and really, really exaggerate it. I would try to get it to where, I mean, honestly, when I say exaggerate things, I'm talking about exaggerate them so much that it's not even a real swing. So what would that look like? That would look like you're coming into impact like that. I mean, if you see how I have so much forward shaft lean. I've turned this handle down so much and have a square club face. So this is kind of the position that I'm trying to achieve at impact. And then I come through all the way into a full finish there. So exaggerate as much as you possibly can. And then when you go to actually take the swing, it won't feel like you're exaggerating that much. It'll feel, more normal to you. So that's a good way to help. Exaggerating things as much as you can is a good way to help you. It's a good way to help you to get the results a little bit faster. So Hansi says, can you talk about grip and how it affects a stable fluid spine? Sure. So basically, gripping the club, because your trail hand is below the lead hand, it makes it a little bit easier to get into that tilted away position. Now, if you have a really weak grip, so let's say you're kind of like this, you're really weak grip, grip is going right down like that. It makes it a little bit more difficult to get into that position, but you can still do it. It's just a matter of getting in this tilt right here. So you can do it with a strong grip. Maybe you'd be, if this is a really, really strong grip, I'd be kind of like this. If I have a weak grip, which would be like that right there, thumb kind of going straight down the shaft, I'd be like this. If I was kind of in a neutral grip, which is mostly what I recommend, I think it's better for most people. Some people might benefit from a stronger grip as well, but this would be kind of a neutral grip right here, and you can see I'm in a nice spine angle position. So you can use any grip that you want, baseball grip, overlap, interlock, whatever it is. It's not going to make a huge difference for you as far as your spine angle is concerned, because it's very, very easy. If you get right here and you bring this trail hand down because it's below your other hand, it makes it very, very easy to get in that angled away position. All right. So Charles V says, on downswing, should we try to keep our upper arms and elbows close to our body? So in the downswing, as you're coming into impact, yeah, it's a good feeling to have that connected feeling. So we talk, you hear people talk about being connected all the time. Well, you don't want to be connected throughout the entire swing. And the reason for that is it really restricts your movement. So if you think, I see this all the time. I get people that come to our distance clinics, and they're keeping this arm attached to their side. So they're bringing this club back like this, and they're not letting this arm leave their side. Well, man, it's going to be tough to get much distance from here. I don't have a lot of space and time to accelerate the club. So disconnect. You got to disconnect at the top of the swing so that you can get a big free range of motion. And then as you come into impact, that's when you want to be connected. So you can see right here, if I angle this down, my arm here is going to be kind of pinned up against my chest here. So you can see right here, I'm coming into impact. You can see my lead arm is kind of pinned up against my chest here as I'm opening up here. And you can see my trail arm is coming in and it's kind of pinned more against my side. So that gives me a nice connected feeling there at impact. And then in the follow through, my arms now disconnect because they're going out wide here. Now my arms are disconnecting from my body, and I'm coming around all the way into a full finish there. So the only place that you really want to think about your arms and your elbows being more connected to your body, and really arm and elbow is more the trail arm and elbow being connected to your body. Your lead arm will be kind of connected to your chest a little bit, but your elbow will be kind of out toward, your elbow will be coming in kind of more out, pointed out toward the target, not into your body like that. So hopefully that makes sense. So we got about 5 more minutes left. go ahead and post your questions on there, and we'll get them answered. We'll be back here tomorrow, be 9 a.m. Eastern time. All right, so go ahead and get your questions posted on there. Like I said, we got about 5 minutes left. Got any last-minute questions, go ahead and post them on there. Otherwise, we'll need to wait till tomorrow to get them answered. So Hans E says, thanks for your help, Q. No problem. Glad I could help. And Hans, I know you're a new member. If you ever, that search engine that I talked about, if you ever have a specific question about a certain thing, use that search engine. You can find tons and tons of videos on the website. There's tons of videos on the grip. If you're wanting to a lot of detail about the grip, check that out. Be really, really helpful for you. All right. So Rob S. has got a question. So he just started the system and I'm hitting a lot of pull draws suggestions. So a pull is caused by a face that is closed. A draw would be caused by a face that is closed to the path. So I'm guessing you are probably swinging a little bit over the top. I would imagine the face is getting a little bit too close. So what that would mean is you got to look, I'm sound like a broken record today, I know, but you got to look at your swing on camera and see what's going on. So look at your swing from down the line and see what your club path looks like. So if your club path is coming in, it's kind of more like this. It's kind of going outside of your hands, and you're kind of coming into the golf ball with an out to in path, and that face is closed at all. It's going to start left, and it's going to probably hook a lot more left if that face is close to the path. So the best way to fix any issue in golf is to exaggerate the opposite. What would be the opposite of a pull draw? It'd be a push fade, right? So how would I hit a push fade? I would hit a push fade by swinging into out and having a face that's open to that path. So I would try to do some practice swings where you feel like you're swinging way more from the inside and your face is open to the path, and try to hit some balls that start to the right and then curve more to the right. Once you get that, then you can just ease off of that feeling a little bit to get it straightened out. So I would check that out. If you're wanting to work on a course that helps you to stop swinging so much out to in, the Never Slice Again course. I know you said you weren't slicing. I know you said pull draws, but the pull is just a product of the same issue of a slice. They're both due to a path that is too much out to in. So look at your swing on camera. See what's going on. See if it's an out to in path. If this club is coming down, first you want to make sure you have this camera angle right. Make sure you have it down your toe line. If you're coming down and this club is outside of your hands in the downswing, kind of like that. What I mean by outside the hands, this would be in line with the hands. This would be outside of the hands. This would be inside of the hands. So if you see this club's kind of coming down steeply outside of the hands, that's going to most likely result in out to in path, and that's going to be pulls, slices, and whatnot. So if you work through that Never Slice Again course, if you just click the house icon, it could also be, you said you just started the system. It could be a spine angle issue. If you look and see on camera that you are very, very vertical, if you're very vertical, what happens is to start this downswing, we'll tend to want to go like this. So you get more angled away as you're going up that top. That makes it easier to help me swing this club from the inside. So some things to take a look at there. Rob, hope that helps. I would go check those out. So James Q says, full backswing, sometimes I lose sight of the golf ball. So most of the time when I see people lose sight of the golf ball, it's because they come up and they lose their posture. So now my shoulders are kind of leveling out. Now I can't see anything. So you got to make sure that you're going up and you are staying in your posture as you're going up the top. You're not standing up. So I'd make sure that that's what's going on. You're most likely coming out of your posture. It's hard for me to know without seeing your swing, but I would make sure that you're staying in your posture as you're going up to the top. Hans goes on to say there's tons of content and it's tempting to jump around. just staying on the process TSG recommends. That sounds good. Yeah, that's completely fine. 40,000 reps ago. It's probably not quite that many, but yeah, I understand. So it's definitely a lot of reps that we ask you to do. Those that have been on the office hours quite a bit before probably heard me make this analogy. Basically, when you're trying to change a movement in your body, you have to build the neural pathways. I equate it to learning how to type. You have to, when you first started typing, you were pointing and pecking and you didn't know where all the keys are. Then you started memorizing where they were. You started getting faster. Then you learn how to put your fingers on the keyboard correctly and understanding what every single finger does. And then you started getting faster. And then you got to where you didn't have to look at the keyboard at all. And you could look up and you were just thinking in terms of words instead of individual letters, and then sentences instead of individual words. And you just got to where you started typing 70 words a minute or whatever. Yeah, I think that's about average, 70 words per minute. So you just didn't start typing 70 words a minute just like that. It took a lot of repetition, a lot of failure. You probably had to hit that backspace key, a lot. It took a lot of practice and repetition to be able to do that. It's the same thing is true when you're trying to change physical movements in your golf swing. You're trying to train yourself to do something different than what you are naturally comfortable with. So learning to play an instrument, any of that stuff, it's all the same. So it's not for everybody. If you're not someone who can do that, then you've always had trouble with that. It's not been enjoyable for you. Then I would say either be happy with where your game is at and go out and play, or maybe this game, may not be for you exactly. You know what I mean? So that's why, I tried to learn how to play guitar. I got super frustrated with it. My hands started hurting and I didn't like it. I really wanted to learn how to play guitar, but I didn't want to go through the pain and all the repetition and things like that. So I gave it up. So it wasn't for me. That might be the case with golf for some people. So, if I just wanted to be okay with playing Itsy Bitsy Spider my whole life, then that would be fine. But, that wasn't sufficient for me. So basically I quit doing it. I'm not saying anybody should quit golf. I'm just saying improving and getting really good at something, it's not as easy as I think a lot of people think. It takes time and repetition and hard work. And as long as you apply yourself and keep after it, you'll see improvement for sure. So it's after 4:00. So everybody, thanks for joining me today. I'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. You can start posting your questions up to an hour before, which would be 8 a.m. Eastern. Keep in mind that any questions posted before then likely won't get answered. It's just because I want to answer questions for people that are here to see them get answered. So keep that in mind. So hopefully you can join me then, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you next time.